Dr. Sahar Aboud, an economic. Good morning, everyone. Just as Dr. Abla said in her own introduction, we started surveying 516 institutions, and now I'll walk you through the results. This survey focused on 5 main pillars. First, demand on labor, which is in line with demand on products. So before asking about labor demands, we needed to study the future trends of companies. Second, we needed to make sure if the institutions need people to work. Third, problems. And then fourth, training, and finally, cooperation with the training and vocational training. As for the trends in the coming 5 years, 19% said they have no future trends, and 81% said that we have certain sectors that can be divided into two things. Traditional things here with less risk, focusing more on sales, for example. But unconventional trends means high risks when it comes to introducing new products, for example. We focused on the 81% here. These people want to add new production lines and new sales and adding new products. We analyzed the analysis. Institutions in general are more for conventional or unconventional trends with less risks. 81% of the institutions prove that they are mature and they are after profit opportunities because they are competitive. Whether with local or international products. After that, we will classify the sector and the geographical locations. Of course, size is key, and we identified SME in line with the World Bank, and then we compare it to this dotted line. As for mega institutions, they are leading when it comes to integrating technology. As for the SMEs, they are more conventional, and the small enterprises are below the average, if I may say. Or so small enterprises are not after exportation. When we study 4 regions, Cairo, Alexandria, Delta, and Upper Egypt, the regions are similar more or less in the 3 main points, but they are different when it comes to adding new lines and adding new products and increasing exported products. Of course, in Alexandria, the trends are unconventional. Upper Egypt combines both conventional and unconventional trends, but people in Upper Egypt are not for exportation due to the poor ecosystem there. When we analyze things, we will care for the best and the worst and the average. The best and the worst sector. What does that mean? We studied the 7 trends we came up with based on the answers of the companies, and then we identified the best sector. So for example, cosmetics and pharmaceutical products is the best, but leather products were the least. For interrupting the presentation, as I said, we presented the best and the worst in each sector, and then we divided the sector into 3 groups: positive trends, and here comes cosmetics. The dotted line represents the average, so here cosmetics is the best, and then followed by ready garments, food processing, and printing. We have 5 other sectors: leather, construction material, furniture, and mineral industries are less. We also have engineering and chemical industries, which are in line with the average. Cosmetics is very promising. When it comes to food processing, they are after starting new branches, and people in the textiles want to export, but it's not very promising, to be honest. At the very same time, textile sector represents a barrier for the ready-made garment, and this sector has many exported products, but this is not given due attention. And the same holds true for printing. Despite the fact that furniture, leather, and printing are given due attention from the state, the trend is not very positive. We also ask the institutions, how would that affect the demand on labor? 81% said, yeah, we would need more laborers on 2 different levels: operational workers and technicians in general. 516 institutions would generate many jobs. 10,000 jobs will be generated, and then we identified this in line with the geographical location and the size of the company. So the size of the company will be in line with the level of demand. 46% will come from big companies, and then followed by small or medium enterprises. And this tells us that medium enterprises will need more people because they will diversify their needs in the future. As for the big companies, they will make up for 46% of the future labor need. We did not have differences when it comes to the level of workers. Here we are referring to operational workers, assembly workers. When it comes to the geographical location, yes, more workers will be needed, especially from Upper Egypt. 41% of the job opportunities will be needed in Upper Egypt, followed by the Delta, and of course people will need operational workers, assembly workers, and technicians. Upper Egypt makes 41% of the laborers based on conventional and unconventional trends, because many workers will be needed. Of course, many workers will be needed in Alexandria, especially when it comes to specialists in certain industries. There will be high demand in Cairo, and that can be interpreted in its line to increase its own sales. We have 10 main sectors. ESEC 2 digit is included based on the FEI and the expert council's classification. The future needs will need more laborers, of course. Engineering industries will need 25% of the workers, and then ready-made garments would also need a lot. In each occupational level, we found that the operational technicians will be needed in ready-made garments, in printing, in cosmetics, in food processing, in textiles. Most institutions said that the future needs means more laborers, with the exception of few institutions. Cosmetics or pharmaceutical companies expected 100% increase. Ready-made garments will also need people. And when we say people here, we want operational, assembly workers, and technicians. Garments and leather need double the workers, but of course pharmaceutical and cosmetics need specialists or highly trained workers. Institutions want more operational workers and technicians, and this means that trends are unconventional, more or less, and the difficulty of having highly trained workers is there. This also proves that the value chain is not strong and we do not have many added value products. We analyzed this from three perspectives: education, experience, and training. Dr. Sahar, allow me to interrupt you, please. In order for you to be able to follow up with what you're saying, or in order for you to be able to interact with you. So please take your time, slow down a little bit, because you're going very fast, like very fast. I know that you want to stick to your time limit, but we want the panelists and the audience to be able to grasp your presentation. So take your time, please. Slow down. Thank you for telling me so. 63% of the institutions ask people graduating from secondary vocational students, especially those who studied mechanical and electrical specialists. Of course, there are varying levels of experience required in line with the size of the institution, the region. So big institutions, of course, would ask for highly experienced people, and this happened in Cairo and Upper Egypt. Furniture, for example, asked for highly experienced workers. 56% of the institutions did not require prior or previous training, but the rest of the institutions preferred or not preferred, set as a condition having previous training. Of course, this was the case in Cairo and Upper Egypt, in ready-made garments and in construction material. Second pillar, the current demand on labor. So we asked about the vacancies in factors, and 34% said yes, we have vacancies. And this makes 40,000 job opportunities to be classified according to the size, the sector, and the region. We identified the three different classifications. 57% comes from the big institutions, they need workers, and then medium enterprises need workers, and they focus on operational workers. It's rare to find this. As for small enterprises, they care for workers to operate small machines. Upper Egypt needs 80% and the Delta 29%, followed by Delta, and then Cairo. Cairo has the least number of vacancies, and the same holds true for focusing on special workers. Alexandria needs more specialists. Upper Egypt needs all types of workers. And here we are studying the current demand, the current vacancies. Here I'm referring to the current investment structure, not the future needs I referred to earlier. As for the vacancies, half of the vacancies comes from the ready-made garments, and the rest comes from engineering industries, and then followed by different industries. People focus on technicians and operational workers, but the levels varied. Of course, this does not cover all the industries. Leather sector focuses on assembly and operational workers. The ready-made garments needs also a lot. Cosmetics need highly trained and experienced workers. again, training, experience, and education. 59% of the institutions said that people should finish TVET secondary school, focusing on mechanical and electrical. 51% did not ask for previous experience, but of course, big companies asked for people with previous experience. Regions did not vary in terms of experience required, so all the regions would ask for 1.8 years of experience. Pharmaceutical and cosmetics sector asked for previous experience. 52% of the institutions said that previous training is not important, but some ask for training, like Cairo and Upper Egypt. Construction material and leather product wanted people with material. When it comes to the analysis of current and future needs, we asked for certain preferences. 70% said no, we don't have any preference. 30% said yes, we have certain preferences. 80% would prefer graduates of government universities. 14% prefer private graduates because they have special skills. And then 64% said we don't have any preferences, and 36% have certain preferences. And then when we asked what kind of preferences, people said dual education, because students will be highly trained. 17% focus on 3-year secondary school education, and the reasons were not very technical, because these people would accept low paid jobs.
We asked the same question and we differentiated between the size and geographic distribution. Most of them did not prefer that. This is the same idea with the intermediate qualification. And we found out later on that the small and big institutions or facilities prefer the high education. And with respect to the engineering sector and the ready-made garment sector, they prefer the dual system. And we asked the facilities, do they resort to the foreign labor to fill in the gap of the local laborers? We found out that the 11% resort to the foreign laborers. Most of them are the big facilities or businesses that are in Cairo and the Upper Egypt. Also, the law of investment prohibit to ban the facilities from resorting to the foreign labor, and this is because of the lack of communication, lack of technicians and experts, and lack of the specialists and or developers. And then we conducted analysis that compares between the current demand and the future demand. The first thing, with respect to the size, we found out that the small businesses and the medium businesses generate job opportunities or are capable of generating opportunities in the future. At the level of the zones, we found out the Upper Egypt is promising with respect to the future, but this does not mean that its current share is big. At the level of the sectors, we found out that there are non-pattern sectors that are capable of generating job opportunities for the future, like, for example, the sector of leather, the ready-made garments that have employees or staff, but they are not that capable of generating job opportunities in the future. And we found out that when we compared the current demand with the future demand, we found out that there is not a big difference, and this tells us that the unemployment rate is going to be increased because it's focused only on the technicians. And when we compare the occupations that are required currently and in the future, And with respect to the laborers available, we found out that the demand and the needs are not that different between the sectors, but there is a demand to expand some occupations, especially those who have to plastic and paper. And we found out that there I know occupations that build the capacities of the students with respect to the advanced technology. The third pillar, the problems faced by the businesses with respect to the labor. 74% of them face problems with labor. When we identified them, we found out that the turnout is one of the biggest problems, a lack of laborers, a decrease of the production, the groups that have to do with the laborers and the technicians are the two groups that face these problems. This is applied as well according to the geographic distribution and the sectors. When we started to ask about the reasons for the problems, identifying the sector and the size and so on, we did not find any a big difference. Businesses have two options: either they increase the salary or they give them training. And there is no difference between the turnout in the sectors. So they are almost the same problems, and this applies on the different sizes and different zones and different sectors. The fourth pillar that has to do with the training, we have two types of training. Training with respect to the new laborers and the students. We have found that 89% of the businesses they provide training for the new laborers. The training methods, there are four methods by the senior trainers in company training, or training by foreign experts, or training by foreign institutions. And most of the businesses, of course, prefer in company training or by senior trainers. The programs provided basic training, technical training, quality, safety and security, and other things like computer administration. And when we ask the businesses what are the non-technical skills required, they all agreed on that they are non-technical skills that have to be required by any employees, like, for example, discipline, accuracy, honesty. And those who resort to foreign training entities, who are they? According to the size, we found out that the big businesses in all the sectors, they depend on the training entities that are public, and those who resort to private entities in Cairo and Upper Egypt, especially with respect to pharmaceuticals and food products. 98% of the businesses train the laborers. This proves that the employees are not that well qualified, or the candidates are not that well qualified. And the current system, of course, is not able to satisfy the requirements and the needs of the labor market. And this indicates that we have as well a problem in the whole training system. Either the training is not based on needs, or there's a lack of communication with the businesses. The needs for the Upper Egypt are, of course, more than the needs of the training in Cairo. And that's why most of the training centers are in Upper Egypt, and the sectors that have non-traditional tendencies, like, for example, the pharmaceutical sector, printing, the training capabilities of these sectors, of course, are higher than the other sectors. And of course, this highlights the importance of conducting partnerships. And when we ask the businesses, are they ready to train the students? 52% of them are not ready to train them. 48% of the institutions who are ready to train the students are those big businesses and medium businesses in Alexandria and Upper Egypt. They are mostly willing to train the students. We tackled a further detail. Do you prefer the student to be trained in a certain on a certain specialization or occupation? Found out that they are focusing on two. Either they prefer the training of the university student or the dual system student. This applies on all the sectors, and it, the businesses need to train either university students or prefer to train university students or dual system students. This the small and medium enterprises or businesses prefer to train the dual system students. Alexandria and the Upper Egypt are ready to train the dual system students, but Cairo is ready to train the university students. The 52% of the businesses that refuse training the students, this is because of so many things. And the biggest reasons is that the training obstructs the working flow in the business with respect to cooperation with the training entities. Found out that 20% only of the businesses have a cooperation agreement with an education institution and the rest do not have. Those who have cooperation agreements, the 20%, who are they according to the size? They are the big businesses for the Upper Egypt especially, followed by Alexandria. According to the sector, we are going to find that the engineering manufacturers are those who cooperate with respect to the training. With who do they train? They cooperate are education institutions and as private training centers. They cooperate on two fields mainly. There are like five fields, but the biggest two fields are development of curricula and training of trainers. And we asked all the institutions, are you willing to train, to cooperate in the future? 34% only are willing to cooperate in the future and 66 refuse. Those who are willing to cooperate in the future are the same of the big institutions, the Upper Egypt entities, followed by, of course, the engineering industries. What are the fields for cooperation? Focus as well on the development of the curricula and TOT, and the conclusion, 80% of the businesses do not have cooperation agreements, and this means that there a weak linkage between the institution, the training businesses, and the education institutions. The high rate of these businesses that lack the willingness to cooperate in the field of training, this means that there is no trust between the public institutions and the training institutions or the businesses. So the big businesses and the medium businesses can, those who are willing to train the staff are trying to overcome the problem that has to do with the weak qualifications or the lack of qualifications in the candidates. We have a more detailed analysis for 5 sectors that includes the size and zone for every industry, chemical, textile, ready garments, and all the other sectors. Thank you so much.